So you excited to go check out some mobile home communities? Me too. In this video, I'm gonna jump in my car and I'm gonna show you what I look for and what I think of when I'm driving through mobile home communities to determine whether or not it's a community I wanna work in or not. I will let you know, I'm gonna take you to some not so nice mobile home communities just to kind of give you some ideas of what you should be trying to be aware of if you don't want to work in a specific community, because it's going to happen to you. You might think a community looks great, you go drive there and then you realize, this does not look so great. I'm going to make note of that and I'm not coming back here. So join me in this video and we'll go check out some mobile home communities together. All right, so here we are on our way to check out one of the communities. Couple things. One, how you look is important. So dress professionally. That way, if the neighbors see you kind of scoping around, they don't think that you're some creepy person trying to scope out the place to rob them. Second thing is pay attention to the surrounding neighborhood and the entrance. So you can see we're about to pull into this particular community. This has a nice little gate. A lot of these communities in our market don't have this, but this is a nice little thing that you would make a note of. Okay, it has a nice gated entrance. But yeah, as soon as you pull in the community, the first things that I'm looking at, and you can look at your checklist, is what's the condition of the roads, what's the condition of the signage of the community. You'll notice in here there's a lot of good signs that are professional and updated. Even their front entrance sign is very nice. You want to look at the homes. Like if you look at this one right here, are there a lot of homes that have like skirting missing or work being done? And is that a consistent pattern or is it just one home? It's pretty normal to see just, one home getting worked on. But if you see consistently a lot of homes that are getting worked on or not being worked on and just in bad condition, make note of that, because that's how you're going to determine if this is a nice community or not a nice community. So as you're going through, again, just go through the checklist. How many for sale by owner signs? There's one right there. Or that's actually by a real estate agent. So how many of these are real estate agents? How many of these are for sale by owners? Is there a dominant competitor in the community? And just make note of all that. All right, so another thing that you want to look at is what's the parking situation like? So if you see like a lot of crowded parking on the roads, then the management's probably not enforcing that. Another thing you might look for is just how well enforced are the rules. Do people have a lot of junk and stuff going on in their yards, and no kind of does it have a nice feel or does it have kind of a uncomfortable feel? So part of this is a feeling too. You're not just looking, but you're also feeling. Do I feel comfortable here? Kind of feel while you're looking and make sure that it's a community that you would want to work in and that you'd feel comfortable selling homes in. All right, so I'm driving to another community right now. If you're like me, you probably know your city, so you know what sides of town are better than others. Right now I'm driving to the south side of my town, which I know just from watching the news and growing up here isn't necessarily the best side of town. That's when you watch the news where a lot of the stuff is going on. There can be some nice communities, by the way, in not so nice parts of town. So I don't discriminate necessarily just because of the part of town, but you just want to be mindful of what's the surrounding area. And so for me, I have some communities that I call them like oases in the desert. And that's where you have like a really nice community, but it's not surrounded by the best area. Now, sometimes it can kind of have like a little bubble around it where it's kind of safe and the area doesn't really go into it. But just be mindful of the surrounding area of where your communities are located. And you might decide for you don't want to work in those areas. But for me, I don't prejudge. I do look at the community. I do look at the surrounding area. And then I try to make a determination on, what I want to do. So just keep that in mind as you're looking around. All right, so we're about to pull into another community. Again, we're looking at signage. We're looking at roads. We're looking at for sale signs. We're looking at condition of homes, maintenance of individual homes, and the community itself. We're also looking for who the competitors are, and is this a place that we feel comfortable working in. We're also looking at the people. What's the crowd of the individuals who are staying here. So I'll turn here and let's see. So we have a shopping cart in front of that one. There's obviously a mix of older homes with some kind of 90s style homes. We're looking at the vehicles, but look at kind of how overgrown the trees and the bushes are. Another big thing I'm looking at, do we have boarded up windows? This one I just saw has a boarded up window. And just, yeah, what's the overall condition? I'm also looking to see, like, what does the community allow? You know, you can see, like, if there's one or two homes that are rough, that's to be expected. But if you see a lot, then that means the community is just not keeping up on everything. All right, so another thing that's really important to note, when you see a community that's a little rough and not really, you know, maintained, a lot of that falls back on management. You know, management can make or break a community. And so when you look around and you see some of these homes that are just neglected and yards that are overgrown, and there's tons of parking on the street or boarded up windows, or, you know, it's just rough. That usually falls back on management. If you have great management, you're usually going to have a great looking community. So this one, if you kind of look around, and you could take a peek back out this window here, look at the condition of the homes. These are things that you're going to take into account when you're giving it a rating on how you rate the community. You can see that one still has a hitch attached to the front. So this one is not a very well-kept community, and you can see the homes are not in very well maintained condition either. So keep in mind, whenever you buy a home in a community, you have to sell that home and that community. And if there's a bunch of, you know, trash outside, and, you know, poor maintained things, you know, high quality people aren't going to want to live in those communities. So some of these mobile homes are located in kind of industrial areas, or kind of tucked away where you don't see them from residential areas. So here's an example of one that we're about to go into. There's a bunch of self-storage. Sometimes there's like some manufacturing stuff, or commercial offices around it. Other communities are in residential areas, kind of tucked away, but it's kind of a mix. So oftentimes, you know, you'll see communities in places you least expect it. You definitely do want to pay attention in those industrial areas. Sometimes there's more people parked out, living in their vehicles and stuff, so that can be a little bit less desirable. But here we are, we're about to pull into just kind of, you go from an industrial place into a mobile home community. So here we go. So again, when you pull in, you're paying attention to how well the roads are maintained, trees are maintained, what's the condition. You're paying attention to competition. We clearly have a competitor here, which is a real estate agent. Paying attention to the signage and the condition of the park itself and the condition of the homes. If there's people around, which you'll see usually more people during the weekends or after 5 p.m. when people are getting off of work, you can kind of assess who's living in the community to get a sense of that. As you can see, this community is actually pretty good condition as far as not having a lot of, you know, junk outside. So far, the homes seem to be in decent condition, pretty decent maintained. You have a good mix of kind of modern looking homes, not just older, but there are some older, so it's a good blend. I'm seeing one coming up here that looks boarded up. You know, that will happen. So if it's here or there, it's not a big deal. If you see a lot of that, then you might start questioning. Probably just an eviction, which can be an opportunity. So keep an eye out for those as well. And sometimes you can talk to the manager of the community about those. Usually they're the ones who did the eviction. So yeah, looking at this community, you just want to kind of assess based on the location of the community and the condition of the community. is this a place that you would want to work? And based on the checklist that we go over, what would you rate this community? Is it a community that you would add to your list? Usually we encourage you to narrow it down to your top 5 communities that you really want to work in. Maybe top 10 if you're ambitious and you want to do a lot. But in the beginning, kind of narrow it down. Is this a top 5 community that you want to work in? How would you rate it? There's opportunity in every community, no matter whether it's a 5-star or 1-star, there's still opportunities. It just comes down to what you want to actually work with. All right, so now I'm on my way to another community. Again, what's unique about this one, it's actually in a really nice residential area. This is like an upper middle class area. So it has really good school districts. The homes in the area are probably about $500,000, which is a little above the median price point in the city that I'm currently located in. This particular community is kind of a more unique community, so they don't have like the traditional manufactured homes. I don't know if you can see I'm pulling in here, but yeah, they have kind of like a nicer sign with some stone. But yeah, so super nice little community located in a nice side of town with a nice neighborhood around it. This is actually like a really good example of a community that you should try to get in at, where it's a well-maintained community, nice homes, and it's in a really nice part of town, so that it's a very desirable area that people would want to live. Great school district, unique style homes that feel more like a traditional real estate instead of living in a manufactured mobile home kind of style. All right, you've seen plenty of communities now. I think you have a clear idea of what to look for when you're driving through these mobile home communities. So what's your next step? Your next step is to take all that information that you got while driving in the field and put it into your market research form. Make sure that you're putting in the address, the notes of what you saw while you were there, and you also want to reach out to the mobile home community managers at some point and start figuring out what the lot rents are so you can put that in your market research form as well. So congratulations, you've successfully got in the field. You figured out which 10 or 20 communities you actually like. The next step is to start figuring out who your competition is and what the mobile home prices are in your local area. And that's what we're going to do in the next lesson.